On May 6, 1585, in Norfolk, England, John Rolfe and Dorothea Mason gave birth to their son John. John would be known for pioneering the cultivation of tobacco and making it into the first cash crop. John also became well known for his marriage to Pocahontas, the daughter of the Indian chief Powhatan. Prior to his marriage to Pocahontas, John married Sarah Hacker in 1608. In 1609, John, his wife, and many other settlers set sail on board the Sea Adventure for Jamestown, Virginia. These settlers were part of a new charter organized by the Virginia Company to assist the colony because they were struggling to make money for the Virginia Company and to help them survive. The Sea Adventure was stocked with enough supplies and food to help sustain the colony for a year, but during a hurricane, it became separated from the rest of the fleet and became stranded on an island that is now known as Bermuda. While being stranded on the island, John and his wife had a daughter in February 1610, but later she died. The settlers constructed two small boats, the Patience and the Deliverance, and completed their journey on May of 1610, and landed at Jamestown, and shortly after their arrival in Jamestown, John's wife passed away. The conditions at Jamestown were not good, and there were only about 60 settlers left. The conditions were due to the lack of leadership and the lack of knowledge of how to cultivate food, and this is where John saved the colony from all passing away. John began experimenting in 1612 with planting tobacco crops using the seeds that he had smuggled aboard the Sea Adventure that were from the West Indies. This crop produced a crop of tobacco that was more fragrant and sweet than native tobacco, and it was suitable to grow in the conditions of the colony. The new tobacco crop became a high-valued item for Virginia and England, and this created many opportunities for the colony. The crops were the first major exported cash crops and created a tobacco boom into the 1620s, and this ensured John's standing within the colony. In 1613, the Indian princess Pocahontas was kidnapped by the settlers, and they were going to trade her for the Englishmen and weapons that were captured by the Indians. John met Pocahontas in 1614, asked the Virginia governor, Sir Thomas Dale, and Chief Powhatan for their blessing to marry Pocahontas, and they both gave their blessings. On April 5, 1614, John and Pocahontas got married, and this marriage promoted a peace between the Indians and the settlers for 8 years. The peace made it possible for the expansion of the colony to other land. John and Pocahontas had a son, Thomas, in 1615, and in 1616 the Virginia Company sponsored a trip back to England for the family. This trip was used to encourage support for the Virginia Company and for the colony back in Jamestown. In March of 1617, Pocahontas passed away of pneumonia, so John left his son with an uncle to raise, and he returned to Jamestown. During this time, Chief Powhatan died, and his brother became the new chief, and he wanted peacetime to end and wanted to attack the settlers. Upon John's return to Jamestown, he remarried to Jane Pierce, and in 1621 he was appointed to the colony's Council of State, where he previously had served as the secretary and recorder of the colony. John died in 1622 during a massacre that took place on his plantation. In summary, John's cultivation of the tobacco crop was Virginia's first profitable exported cash crop, which in turn made the colony financially stable. The tobacco was considered the gold of Virginia, and the people in England loved it. England's first success in the New World was Jamestown and Virginia, and this was because of the tobacco that John had cultivated. By the late 1619, tobacco was being produced at such a large rate, the need for workers to help tend the crops became so great. This led to the first African slaves to be brought over to Jamestown. John's tobacco crop saved the colony, and his marriage to Pocahontas made for peace times, which allowed the colony to expand and flourish. The colony evolved and grew into a self-sufficient colony, and because of this, the Virginia General Assembly was created.